especially for women. But everyone is welcome as long as you support our mission. So happy to have everyone here. And it's run by volunteers. It's me and Maria. It's also Możde and Mod. So we are 3, and yeah, we are organizing events for you. Okay, so yeah, we always ask if you could just be respectful to each other. We have also code of conduct. If you have any issues, don't hesitate to contact us. We will try to deal with them, hopefully. So we are always broadcasting live. Also, if you cannot make it with us, we try to do the online version. And we, of course, welcome on-site interactions, and we try always to have networking sessions. Sometimes we organize events just for the networking. Perhaps some of you already joined us for that. You can also find us on Slack, through Pyladies Slack, and then you can search for City Paris, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And we are always in search for the speakers, for venues. So thanks again to Talent.io this time. And also, if anyone would like to sponsor some good goodies, we are providing some stickers today. So later on, you can find them on the tables. And our next event will be mentoring sessions in collaboration with Scikit-Learn Foundation. It's going to be 4 sessions when we will try to introduce you to how to start contributing to open source, how to write the clean code, and make your first contributions. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to sign up. I think there is still 1 week to register or so. Okay, so this being said, I will.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Talent. Thank you guys for coming. So happy to have you here. Pardon? It's the camera. Okay, welcome everyone who's online there also. We are happy to have you guys here. So as you may know, Talent.io is a recruitment platform. It's a marketplace where tech talents can apply, can upload your CV, your skills, your experience, which technology you use, which languages you program or code, and then companies will be visible to companies. So this like a marketplace where it's like tech companies looking for talents and talents looking for jobs. So there is a lot of matches there and a lot of jobs opportunities. So if you guys want to sign in to the platform, you're looking for a change in your positions, or you're just curious, you can always kind of sign up to the platform. And also, I bring some old school QR codes here that you can scan. This is the landing page of the Talent Club. The Talent Club, it's a newsletter that we do bi-weekly, every 15 days. We do it in French and in English. It's everything about tech career management. So how to get a pay rise, how to jump from one position to another, a lot of information about salaries, about the state of the market. And it's mostly related to the markets where we operate, that it's France, UK, Germany, Benelux, a bit of Italy, also even remote for some Nordic countries. So welcome to Talent and happy to have you here. If you have any questions, just let us know. Toilets, kitchen, feel like home. Welcome. Thank you. You're welcome.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Nacho. So now we're going to get ready for the first talk. And we are welcoming Chuck. I'm going to ask the people who are online to just wait for me for like 30 seconds while we get ready.
Perfect. You want me to stay here?
No, you will come here.
Okay, let's see how we do this. I have to share my screen, right?
Yes, and you.
Okay. Oop. Present. Yeah, no, this on top. I think it's command this. I think it won't share if it like this. Let me try again. No. I forgot the hotkeys. Bear with me. That's the right one. Okay. Right. Here's the camera. Okay, hello. I can't see myself.
Yes, it's working.
Okay. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay, so hello. I'm Cheuk. So today I'm going to tell you something that you may or may not have heard about. It's something very new that just come up this year and is now it's like a new project. So if you're interested, there are some links on the slides and stuff. So take pictures of this slide because then you would get the link to get this slide deck later. Also, feel free to take pictures and tweet. I'm okay with taking pictures and tag me on Twitter if you can. So how many of you have heard about PyScript before? Yes, no? Yes. So because this talk is going to be about Django, so I would also ask that like whether you use Django or not. Yes, no, yes. Good. So this is for you. My name is Cheuk. So I work for Anaconda. I'm also involved in a lot of open source projects in the past. So I love open source. Also, I organize a lot of different conferences, different meetup and events. So there's the logo at the end of the right hand side is Pyjamas. So it's an online conference. I'm going to tell you more later, and also have stickers. Also, I stream on Twitch before because during the pandemic I can't go to anywhere, so I stream back home. Now I don't have the time, but people online can still see me, so which is great. What is PyScript? So some of you have heard about the name because it was trending when it was announced back in May this year. So PyScript is actually a framework. I have to make it very clear because sometimes people will be like, for example, Pyjamas, the conference I just mentioned, some people think it's a framework and things like that. So there are a lot of things that are named very similarly. So PyScript is actually a framework, not to be mistaken with other thing that's called PyScript. Also, it's like a run the Python application on the browser. So you can. So it's basically something that has been in talking for a long time. That because we have a browser, and since Python need an interpreter, so do you know which so there's C Python. So what does Python interpret into? The standard Python, what does Python interpret it into? Which language? C. Yes, C. So they're actually not just like C Python. There are the interpreter that interpret Python in different things as well. So there was an idea that why don't we just make Python run in a browser by interpreting it into WASM? Someone may say, JavaScript, but there are other effort to make it into JavaScript, but not as fast as WASM. So now the kind of the what everybody's trying to do is to make Python into WASM, so it will run on the browser. So is PyScript going to replace JavaScript? Actually, it's not, because there are. So first of all, PyScript is written. So if you look at the source code of PyScript, you will see a bunch of like TypeScript files. So it's written in TypeScript. So it's written in JavaScript. So no, and also like because if you see a little bit of example later, that actually you can use PyScript and JavaScript together to make some very nice visualization and things like that. So so it's not going to replace JavaScript. And also PyScript itself actually is very lightweight. Most of the magic happened in Pyladies, which is a project started with Mozilla that they have the effort to make things that run in the browser. So Python is one of them, and it became the project Pyladies. So if you have heard about Pyladies before, you know that they provide a lot of like API calls interface to make Python run in the browser. And of course, Western now it's like, it's the standard of like running things in browser really quickly. Is the WebAssembly language. So that's thanks to that we can now run Python in browser. Also, what makes it special, because like I said, there's a lot of different effort of trying to interpret Python into, let's say, JavaScript or other thing. Like what make this project so noteworthy is that because as of now, there's a lot of Python packages is already available with thanks for Pyladies and Michael Pip. So so imagine if you can just run Python without all these like different libraries on the browser, then it may not be very useful, right? Because we all code in Python, and we know that we will import some library and stuff. With just Python, we won't do too much stuff. So that's why it's so important. And let me show you how to use PyScript. Okay, so I'm showing you this is the way that we do it in the latest version. It kind of have some changes from the alpha version, which was the version that was first announced. So that was the alpha version. Now there are more things that because all the engineering team kind of figure it out that like this is a better way of doing things. So now we have this new version. So again, this 2-line of code is very essential. So what it does is actually like the first one actually is linking a style sheet inside the HTML. So if you have done a little bit of things with front end, you know that it's just a CSS, right? So theoretically, you don't need that line to run PyScript. You can just have the second line, which is having PyScript itself to be, load into the page. But the reason why we have that CSS is that later, when you see that when we use the Python REPL, that is actually styling the REPL so it looks nice instead of just some plain text flying around. So that's that. But anyway, the second line, like calling in the JavaScript, like it's actually JavaScript, right? So PyScript is written in JavaScript. So with that, actually is the thing that makes PyScript work. So after you put those 2 lines, then now we can write Python on browser. So you just need to have a PyScript tag. That within that tag, then you could write Python. So this is just Python, right? Like even the syntax highlighting is not picking it up because the thing is the HTML file. But we all know it's Python. It also import matplotlib. It imports the NumPy here. And okay, now we can do that. So to do that, we actually need to have the pyconfig. So the Python config is replacing pyenv in the alpha version. So for those of you who have tried PyScript, you know that before we have pyenv, and then you put all the name of the library that you want to import. But now it's changed. It's changed into pyconfig. So in pyconfig, there's 2 ways of writing a pyconfig. This is the JSON format. There's also a TOML format that is supported. Actually, that was the default. But I can talk a little bit more in depth about that later. But this is now how you import the packages. You just have a list of packages there in the JSON. So this is a very simple HTML file that actually will plot the random numbers with the help of PyScript and matplotlib and NumPy. So the pyconfig tag. So this is the newest thing that the latest version come into, the biggest change from the alpha version. So like I said, it supports multiple formats. It supports TOML format. So that's actually the default. So for those of you who love TOML, good news, you can just write TOML there. The syntax highlighting is a bit weird, but let's ignore it for now. And then this is actually my favorite. I love JSON. Don't beat me. So this is the JSON format. So it's very similar. It's the JSON. You just have the brackets and stuff, like we all know that. Or this is the fun bit. You can actually load in a config file. So you can, sometimes it's not ideal to have your pyconfig everything that is written in the HTML itself. So like a CSS or something, like you can put it in another file, either a JSON file or a TOML file. Then you can code it in with the source option in the tag itself. And on top of that, you can also add other config, or actually you can define the variable in the source file as well. So very complicated, but they are all in the documentation. So the link is linked to the page. We explain it a little bit better. So if you have the slides, you can click on it and read it. So now PyConfig do more than just the packaging thing. It's do a lot of settings for your PyScript. So of course, it plug in the packages. So the easiest way to do it is to, not the fastest, the easiest way is to just put the name of the packages. Now we have a lot available. If there's one very niche package that you're using and it's not available yet, you can do it either if the package itself is purely written in Python. You can just get the will. You can get it from PyPI, and then you can host it yourself. That will work if the library is purely written in Python. What if it's not? What if it's like scikit-learn, or what if it's like NumPy that it use other external code? Then you have to go to Pyladies GitHub and then ask, oh, may I have that package? Because they make a lot of effort of compiling all the other like packages. So so you can do it that way. So unfortunately, for those you can't host it because you have to use the compiled version by Pyladies. But if it's purely in Python, you can host the will. It will work. Also, you can change the runtime setting. Right now, of course, we use Pyladies, but there's actually some plan to use some other runtime. I can't tell you too much because it's still not out there yet. But you can change different runtime. For example, like, I want to pin a certain version of Pyladies. Now you can do it with the runtime setting. Also, you can add the metadata. So in the PyConfig, you can add some description or the author's name or license. There are much more than that. You can, again, check the documentation. They will also show what you can add in the tag. So that's how you can create PyScript in HTML. So this is the fun bit. This is because we all know what is Jupyter Notebook, right? Yes. Okay. Good. So so with the PyRepo tag, so you see before the example before, right? You see that it's using the PyScript, and then you write Python in it. So what if I want something like a Jupyter Notebook, right? It's like I don't know what code will be there, but someone, the user can change the code. Either you have a code that is already written, but you want the user to change it, or if you want someone to type in the code and run it, then you use the PyRepo. So it's very similar to Jupyter Notebook. It's not exactly the same, but you can just type, for example, print hello world and then shift enter, and then it will execute. So that's the PyRepo tag. Yeah, this is very simple. You can. Oh, I forgot to make a file that to show how it works in real life. But yeah, again, if you have the slide deck, you can copy the code and then put it in an HTML file and run it, then you know what it looks like. So yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, the slides is a bit confused. So this is what I'm talking about. Is you can the PyScript tag, those two lines. Let me go back to that thing. So okay, so these two lines. So it's actually now the the PyScript.net latest PyScript.js. So it's a CDN, right? So some web developers, they don't like CDN that much. So can I do that? Can I host it? Yes, you can self-host it. There's actually because it's written PyScript is written in TypeScript. So what happened is that it's actually built somewhere. So in the PyScript GitHub, actually you can find the compiled file, static files that you can host it yourself together with your website or something like that, and then it will work. So so now go back to the talking point of why we want PyScript, right? Like so for those of you who use Django, you think that, oh, well, I can do it with Django, right? I can, like, for example, I want to plot all these numbers. I can, run it in the backend and then just, generate a picture from Matplotlib and then put it back on the front end. Why do you want to do it on the front end? So there are a few reasons why we may want to. Sometimes because if the computation is very heavy and you have a lot of users to use it at the same time, then you have to assign a lot of resources from the backend to support that. It may have a problem. For example, like if you have some machine learning things that's very heavy and everybody's trying to run it, then maybe put the load to the front end, let the user computer deal with it. Now people have very good computer and stuff, so maybe you don't have to use the backend to support it. Also, sometimes, for example, the Python repo thing, right? Online, there's a lot of code editor and stuff like it's for teaching or something. People can write Python and then run it, or in documentation, there's some examples. So you can provide a sandbox for people to run something, but there's always a worry that someone may use it to do something that they are not supposed to. For example, mining Bitcoin. So if it runs in the front end, then it's their resources. They can do whatever they want, but they're not using your resources to do something that they are not supposed to. And also sometimes, for those of you who work with data, sometimes the data, we always careful about the data, security, GDPR, this stuff. Sometimes some data, it should not leave the user's machine. If, you have to have some protocol to send them to the backend and process them, then, there's always some risk in the network that, you don't want to deal with it. Then just let them do it in the front end. So will PyScript replace Django? Of course not. But actually, we can think about it. We can actually use PyScript with Django and see what we can create. I remember when I was in DjangoCon, and then after that, there's PyCon Portugal. Someone made something very interesting. They put Django with PyScript into the front end. So basically, they create a front end as a back end. So, but that is a fun project. That's not what I'm trying to persuade you to do. I'm going to show you an example that actually a machine learning model is trained in the back end, but it's deployed in the front end, and then it can be done like so. This is how it looks like when it runs. Oh, I already run this. So, okay, let's do it again. So let's refresh, and so this is starting. So you can see that now it's starting a bit slow because first of all, I used the CDN to load. Now it's faster than alpha version actually. So that take a while to load the Pyladies and also load in all the libraries that I use. So it takes a while. I try to host something locally. For example, there's a library I use called Fuzzy. Now that one, I because it's put in Python, I just host the wheel. But I also use scikit-learn, which I can't host the wheel, so it takes a while to load. But anyway, now it's loaded. So now I can put in my favorite movie. So I always use Iron Man because I know it works. And then let's say 5 recommendation, and then recommend. So it's a recommender. So this is what it is, and it's doing something. It takes a while. Yes. So now I have the recommendation, and then from there you can maybe try to find more recommendations. Or if I would like Star Trek, and what will I get from it? So now you got some sci-fi thing like Avatar and stuff. This is a recommender. So I will show you the code of how it works. So let me see if I can find it. Yes. Let me. So is the streaming working? Yes. No. I don't know whether it's sharing. Let's do it this way because I'm sharing the code. Okay. Good. So this is the code. So this is it's a bit small. Can I zoom in this as well? No, I can't. Okay. So this is basically a Django project. I can tell you what is written there. But so it's a Django project, a web app, and then you have all this stuff. So there's a static file that I host, or a static file. I host the Python package. So scikit-learn does not work. So actually, this one does not work. But the Fuzzy actually work. But the thing what I do is that I put so there's actually the training model. So there's actually this is, this is the script that trained the model. So I put the script separate, the training script separate, and then I can use some command, the Python manage.py. You can add some custom command there. So I added a command to train it. So so this is just a demo, right? So imagine the operator who managed the website. Or you can write a script actually, like every night, you have some new data and then you retrain the model, right? So this is done in the backend. So, but what happened is that after this, it will generate two file, which is the model, because it's a demo again. So it's a pickle file. So some people don't like pickle because it's not secure, but use something better if you want to do something in production. So I put it into the model here. So there's actually, I should not load it because it's very big. So there's a two pickle file that they are the model. So after I trained it, I asked the code to put that in the static file. So and then what I do is that in the index.html, I can, so see this, right? PyConfig, if you can see, let me see if I can zoom in. In PyConfig, so of course you load in the packages. So there's the self-hosted wheel here in the static, right? Scikit-learn icon, so just call in scikit-learn. But for the paths, so what it does is that have the pickle file, and also the Python script. This is doing the recommendation. The Python script that do the recommendation. You can also call that in. So after that, this is just some DOM that I create. So there's some UI thing, and then and I just run, run the script, and then get the use the pickle to get the recommendation. So all this code, I don't have time to explain it line by line, but it's hosted on GitHub, so it's linked in the slide, so you can check that out if you want. Let's go back to slides. Okay, so so there you go. So that's the KN recommender. It's a demo. It's not a very sophisticated recommender, but it's just something to spark your imagination of what you can actually do with PyScript with your web application. So there are more examples. So these are more like data visualization things. So for example, this one actually it shows. Can I show you this? So this one actually use D3. D3 is a JavaScript library. So it's a JavaScript library that for creating some visualization, animation, and things like that. So again, it takes a while to load because I'm loading all the packages from the internet. So also it's loading the data as well, I think. Yeah. So this is a D3. So you have very nice animation and stuff. So for example, this is what this is doing is using Panda to filter out different favors from the CSV, and it will show the result as a bar chart. The bar chart is done by D3. So you can see that actually PyScript and JavaScript, they can work together. So that also you can plot maps and stuff. So these are the examples. You can also check it out if you want to. So at the end of the talk, because there's always people asking questions, I collect all of them and just put them in slides. This may be your questions. If it's not there, just ask me, then I will add it to the slides. Can you put in a Python script? Yes, I just showed in the demo. So the static paths and those, so you can do that. It's the Python version that we're using. So right now in the PyConfig, you can pin the Pyladies version, but for the Pyladies, which Python version is using, you have to check Pyladies, which Python version that Pyladies version is using. So also some people say that because if we write JavaScript on the browser, we can just script and then tag equal to JavaScript. But we can't do it with PyScript because PyScript's new. Most browsers won't support things like this. So what we did is to have a custom tag, which is py-script, to write PyScript. So so some person in the past asked why not just use Pyladies, because Pyladies is good, but there's some complicated things that you have to really understand how it works to make it work. I hope that with PyScript, actually things are getting a little bit easier. So just like for those of you who do machine learning, TensorFlow is good. It provides lots of functionality to do deep learning, but it's not easy to use it directly. So Keras is another project that actually sit on top of TensorFlow and make using TensorFlow much easier. So it's very similar to that. So I hope PyScript is making like people who want to run Python on browser have a easier entry point to do that instead of have to understand Pyladies and use the API there directly. So another thing is like, can you print a version in PyEnv? Well, there's no PyEnv anymore, so it's not relevant anymore. So yeah, so right now you can so if you want a specific version of package, you can self-host it. If you can self-host it, I'm pretty sure that, but don't quote me on it because I don't know. So maybe PyConfig in the future you can also pin the version. I don't know. Maybe I can talk to the team to see if they have that in the plan. So also there's another thing called Python. Actually, it's an interpreter that interprets Python into JavaScript. So again, there's a lot of effort of people trying to do that. But what makes PyScript so different is that because now Pyladies support a lot of different libraries, and now with PyScript you can actually call in a lot of libraries, so make it more powerful and more usable to create applications. Beware. So Beware is a project that actually Anaconda also support. Is actually a project tried to make Python work in your phone, whether it's Android or iOS. It's like, so it's a very good project. So because we now have all the Wasm thing and PyScript, so hopefully Beware will also be more powerful in the future. So I'll tell you a lot about PyScript. So our CEO Peter, he will be visiting Lisbon. So if you happen to be near Lisbon at that time, you can join the event and ask him questions directly. So that's it about PyScript. So last thing I want to tell you is that there's an online conference at the end of November, PyJamasConf. You can now register your ticket for free. But if you can afford, or if your employer have some training budget that you haven't used up yet, maybe think about donating, pay what you can ticket to support PyJamasCon. So this year, the profit, if we have any profit, we'll donate it back to the PSF. So yeah, I also have the stickers. So come talk to me afterwards. So that's it. Thank you. Change speakers.
Does anyone have
questions? Yes.
First, thank you for the presentation. It was a great talk. And I wanted to know if the packages you load on the client's browser can be cached by his browser, so we don't have to load it again if we refresh the page.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Someone also suggested that right now there's, I think Pyladies may have some cache, but right now it's not fully cached, so it's still kind of slow. But that's a very good point. If it got cached, then they will be much faster. So I think I have that feedback given to the team. So I think, well, in their like engineering point of view, they would figure out whether it can be done or how to do it, or like, if maybe then if you can pin the version, maybe see, oh, the version changed and they refreshed it. So I don't know. I am, not an engineer in the team, but I have that feedback given to them already. So they are thinking about it. Yeah. Yeah. So any more questions or feedback? Or talk to me after, give me feedback, because I love, like this very good question, so I can give it to the team.
Just a small one. When you say framework, the PyScript is a framework, what do you mean exactly? Can you give maybe an example of another framework that would be the same definition?
So framework is in the sense that because you're not directly using Pyladies, you can, well, if you just want to make Python work in the browser, the other way to do it is to use Pyladies, and then, because Pyladies, you have a lot of API like creating the JSON object from your Python function, all this stuff that you could use it and to make it work. But because PyScript is sitting on top, it's basically something that, you just use the tag and stuff. So it's a framework. So it's a more like high level tool. Yeah. I hope it answers the question. Yeah.
Like, if you want to do requests, can you do like requests using standard library, and then it will somehow do a browser request?
Yeah, you mean the request the library, but that one you have to import it.
Right, but Yeah. So is it possible to run like the request library and move it to like 2 actual requests inside of the browser?
Yeah, well, someone has put the Django in the front end. Django itself, it was put in the front end. So front end as a back end. Someone has done it as a fun project to show off. So yeah, you can do it. I think it's just that it's a bit in. Yeah, you can do it, of course. Yeah. So yeah. All good. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will now move to the next talk. So we'll call Elias to join us. Just trying to be sure it's good. Yes. Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. So I'm here to share with you. I gave the title of this talk, "Learning Loops: Discounting Software Engineering." I hope it doesn't sound too esoteric, because it's like these things that I've been occupying my mind for a while. When I talked to Maria about doing a talk, I felt like this is the kind of stuff that I wanted to share with you all. So, all right. So, who am I? Quick words about me. I'm Elias Dorneles. I'm Brazilian. I'm living here like about 5 years. I work at back markets, and before that, I did some years on startups and also on public sector back in Brazil. On 2017, I did Recurse Center, which is this retreat for programs in New York. And it's pretty fun. I recommend if someday you have the opportunity to do it, to work on the programming skills. For a while, I did quite a lot of open source contributing. I was quite happy to hear about Beware, because I actually worked on that project quite a while. So I'm happy that Anaconda is supporting it. And right now I'm doing training to be a psychotherapist. It's going to take some time because I don't have any background on it. So, but it's that kind of thing that's inspired me to share the kind of thing that I'm going to share with you today, which is, for some reason, when I was younger, I didn't think it was important. So these days, I think it's important. That's the kind of thing that I want to talk about. So this talk is a bit experimental. It's the first time that I'm going to talk about this, so please bear with me. Here be dragons. Okay. So you live in a loop. This is my slide of making a dramatic entrance like Matrix style. But what I mean is like we live in this myriad of learning loops, right? There are many levels that we're programmed to learn human beings, right? So we're always learning things, whether we want it or not. And this is just because it's the way we work, the way since you don't need to tell a kid to learn, like since you're a baby, you're always learning stuff all the time, and this continues on. This is just like how we build knowledge. Either we know something is true because it's like some abstract truth that could be truth if you existed or not, or it's because something that you repeat several times, and at some point it became like this grain of knowledge. Okay, and so this is my first point. We build knowledge through repetition, and the more complex an action is, more you need to repeat it until you actually integrate it, right? So some example of activities from everyday life, like learning to drive, learning how to read, learning a language. These are things that take time and take lots and lots of repetition. And sometimes we do this repetition very consciously, like we're really focused and aware of what it is that we're looking. I'm going to do. I'm going to practice doing this thing again. I'm going to do this exercise. And sometimes we're not really conscious. We're just doing this repetition. And sometimes I think these are things that. The point is that, okay, we're repeating things all the time. Some of it is because we're really choosing to do it. Some of it, like, we're just doing because we already did it before, and many times we're doing this thing. We're doing it because it worked before, and we're not really aware of it. For example, walking. Like, you can be walking and not be. You're not unaware that you're walking. You're just not focusing on it. So, but you can also walking and be very aware. Okay, I'm going to put my foot here. Like, say if you're in some new terrain, that's what you're going to do, right? So the point here is, like, there are many levels of awareness, and then and you can be also deeply unaware that you're repeating something. So that's the point here. So you live in a pretty funky loop, because it's not any loop that we're talking about here, right? Is someone controlling time? Because I forgot to put my timer. So you can. Okay, cool. Okay, so you're learning all the time. Sometimes you're conscious that you're learning, sometimes not. How much do we learn when this repetition thing is, we're doing it unconsciously? So not much, right? Or at least not exactly the things that you would choose to learn if you were doing mindfully, or not as much as you would learn if you were doing mindfully. So for me, this is quite evident for some skill that relies on muscle memory, like playing guitar, right? Whenever I play guitar, I want to just play. I want just perform, and this means that I'm repeating mistakes all the time, and this means that I'm practicing these mistakes. So, like, if I just go and play, I cannot. And if I make mistakes, I'm just practicing those, right? So, practice doesn't necessarily make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So the point here is, like, if you're practicing mistakes, you're making them harder to learn. And this is a very hard lesson for me to learn personally, especially when it comes to playing guitar. Okay, let's talk about building software. That's the point Python talks, right? Okay, so learning programming takes some time. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes mistakes as well. Like, so there's all this, for me personally, it took a lot of repetition to go through all these, subjects. Like, you start by learning logic and those basic looping conditional structures, and then comes object orientation. At the beginning, I didn't really see the point of it, and then okay, that's what it's for. And then other things that came way after I first started learning to program. Anyway, like, so there are all these learning loops that I was going through that I wasn't necessarily aware of. And then, of course, things really start to happen when you start collaborating with other people, right? That's when you get to build big things, when you work with a team, when you exchange your ideas. And then, there's all these new skills to build. You're not just alone with your computer. Actually, computer are great feedback givers, right? You can just type something, and then it tells you, like, oh, you're missing a semicolon, or something like that. And then it's different here. Like, sometimes you need to go through bigger feedback loops so that you can learn whatever it is that you need to learn at the moment where you are. So I think of building software in a team, like of this. There's this thing. I look at this image. Like an orchestra playing, there's all this structure that's there, right? So there's every musician is playing, is doing their own thing, but together they make this whole thing. So I like this idea of that orchestration, like when we're building some, working on a team, like we're part of this thing that's bigger than us, and that we could not do on our own. So I'm going a bit fast. Many companies or teams, organizations are using agile methods because that's what it helps you to do, right? It helps you to structure all these learning loops that are happening at the same time, and you have all these things that need to be synchronized so that people keep growing, and the product is and whatever are the objects of that organization are achieved. So I took this diagram from the Wikipedia for extreme programming, which is an agile methodology that takes the this is really to the extreme, though these days I don't know if that's extreme anymore. But anyway, like I like this diagram because it really shows like and in the units of time, like all these learning loops, feedback loops that are explicit, right? So you have this time where you're coding, and you have this time where you're testing, and then you have this time but you're communicating about it, and then there's this other bunch of other things that are going on in the organization to make things work. So what happens when we practice mistakes inside of these loops, right? We end up practicing those mistakes and then making them difficult to unlearn. So bugs happen. That's what happens when you practice mistakes and in software engineering. And these are not just software bugs, right? Even though software bugs are the first thing that comes to mind, there are process bugs, communication bugs, right? I put here a series of bugs that I could think of, like budget bugs. Things start costing expensive. Health bugs, if the code is getting hard to maintain and the developers are not happy, they might get burnout and things like that. Social bugs, because maybe you're building software that's meant to serve many people, and some people are not getting access to it, and this is a social problem. Okay, so point here is like mistakes that we repeat are possibly the ones that are the most important for us to avoid. And they're the hardest one for us to avoid because we just have practiced them a lot. Okay, so let's look into this more closely, into this whole process of making mistakes and bugs. And I want to talk to you about discounting. That's the thing in the title that you might have been familiar with. This is a concept from transaction analysis theory. This is a theory of the personality that I'm training on. And so discounting is this thing. Let's read the definition. Discounting is an internal mechanism which involves people minimizing or ignoring some aspect of themselves, others, or the reality situation. So it's an internal mechanism because it's happening inside our minds, right? It's not a physical thing, and it involves people minimizing or ignoring some aspect of themselves, of me, or some other people, or what's going on. Like the reality situation here is like kind of the problem that I have with this definition, because it's kind of implying that there's one absolute reality, which is not really true, because every person has kind of a reality, their own reality, but the definition is still useful because, well, let's go for the examples. So let's take the example of in your car panel, there's the oil light blinking, signalizing there's a problem. You might not see it, not even see that there's the oil light blinking. You might notice and ignore it. You also, you can also like see, there's the oil light blinking. There must be a problem. This old car is just going to be like this now, right? So like in here, like you kind of, there's a problem, but it's just that there's no possibility of change. And you can actually go notice that the light is blinking, think that, there's a problem. Maybe there's something that needs to be done. But, well, if only my dad or my mom was here, they would know what to do. I can't do anything about it. So I see there levels of discounting here that are going on. In the first case, like the driver might have discount completely this stimulus, the visual stimulus of the oil light blinking. Let's take an example from software development. So let's say maybe there's some code somewhere that saves a module, a database, and there's a to-do comment saying, we should add some validation. You might look at the code and not even notice that there is a to-do comment saying that this code needs validation. You might read it, but ignore what it says. You might think about it. really, this is this is just going to be like this. This is just like some code, like nobody cares. Or you can think, okay, like this is something that needs to be changed. If only I knew how to write validation code, or if only this other person would write some code, would write the validation code, right? So does this speak to you? Like, is this making sense? Okay, cool. Yeah, so discounting, the thing that I want to talk about is that there is this mode and these levels, and I think you are getting it right now from the examples, right? So there's the level of existence of a problem. There's the existence of even the stimulus, right? So we talk about stimulus, problem, and options. And the stimulus, anything that's perceptual, which in the case of the oil light blinking is obvious, right? In the oil light, and in the case of the code, it's like this to-do comment that's there, can be seen. But it can also be many other things, anything perceptual. It can be like a feeling, like it can be an emotion, it can be a feeling of another person, anything that's related to perception. And the problem is the thing that's behind of that stimulus, right? And the options are things that I or someone can do about it to change the situation. So in the first case, for example, if I don't even see the light, the oil light blinking or the to-do comment, I discounted the stimulus completely. I can, if I advance a little bit, I can realize that the oil light is blinking. I can see the comment in the code, and then, okay, there's a problem. Or at least have the idea in my mind that there's a problem, but not, maybe I haven't yet thought that there may be this thing can be changed. So the possibilities of change of this stimulus, and then are my own personal abilities of doing something to change. Okay, let's go on. This is one other fun example of discounting, right? So how many? I guess everyone knows this. This is a famous meme. Like there's the little dog, there's all fire around, and this is fine. So I think in this case here, like the stimulus would be like the fire, maybe the smoke, maybe the smell, right? This would be the stimulus here. And the problem is there's a fire, man. Like you might get burned. And so I think the dog is acknowledged that there is fire. He knows that the fire is there. He just thinks that there's no problem, right? So if you come back to this table, it will be like acknowledge the stimulus, and ignoring the significance of the problem. So I would put here. I'm going to cheat. Sorry, folks that are there. I'm going to point. It would be here because when I discount the significance of the stimulus, I'm discounting the existence of the problem. And the same here, if I'm discounting the possibilities of change of the stimulus, I'm discounting the significance of the problem and the existence of options, right? So our path to awareness is walking from there to here, right? Okay, so my whole point was that bugs happen because at some point someone discounted something, right? At some point someone what was the word in the definition again? Someone ignored or minimized the reality of someone else, or some reality of themselves. They discounted one stimulus or one problem or the existence of a problem, so on and so forth. By the way, one of the things that I wanted to say is that please value your bug tickets, because the mere existence of a bug ticket in your bug tracker, it means that someone did not discount the existence of a problem. The worst bugs are the ones that we have and we don't even know that they exist, right? So value them. I just came up with some other list of other typical stimulus that happen every day of software development. It may be an error message somewhere. It may be a linter message, or an alert on Slack that you might discount it. It might be a feeling as well, like you're pushing code to production and there's this adrenaline rush, like that's maybe it's not like yeah, let's do it. So that feeling there is telling you something. Listen to it. So same thing about other situations. And last example, frustration expressed by a colleague. Yeah, because the emotions of other people that you are working with, they also matter. And so if you discount that, you might be running into problems later. So, okay, I guess the big question is, can we prevent the stop discounting? Do we have a recipe to not discount? Well, preventing is kind of impossible because, I mean, if you don't know there's a problem, you just don't know there's a problem, right? But stopping, if you're, I mean, you usually can handle after it happens. So, but the first step will be aware of it, right? So you can, if you're recognize that you're discounting something, you can get out of it. So it's kind of hard to spot your own discounting. It's not impossible, but it basically needs like practicing self-observation and awareness, mindfulness, that kind of stuff. It helps. But one thing that I wanted to share with you, which is kind of one easy way of, at least for me, it helps, is that a typical kind of discounting is the one that has this discourse of always or never, like I always make this mistake, or I always forget the semicolon, or oh man, this never happens to me, or like when there's this exaggeration, this thinking that's all or nothing, that's the kind of thinking, the overgeneralization, that's the typical signal that there's discounting going on, and it's usually accompanied by some uneasiness, feeling some bad feeling. Like you don't really feel like at ease when this happens usually, unless you're discounting your own feelings. So I wanted to do this invitation. So next time you catch yourself thinking on these terms of, like all or nothing, or like always or never about you, about someone else, or, about the world, maybe ask yourself like, okay, what do I have as, as a stimulus? What are the things that I'm perceiving right now? Maybe make a list. And then what's the meaning here? And then what's the significance of it? Could it be that I'm missing something? Could it be that I'm assuming that it will stay like this when in fact maybe it could change, right? So, and sometimes it helps talking to someone else that will have a different frame of reference, that will have a different reality in some way, right? So this is the invitation that I want to make, and essentially what helps to avoid discounting is developing this thing of being aware of what's going on right now, right? So knowing myself, knowing my limits, knowing what is the things that I need. That's what's going to help me stop with discounting things, and generally cultivating curiosity, because I mean, true curiosity is like not jumping to conclusions too quickly, right? And being really open to different realities, to the different realities of the other people that are there. So that's it. That's what I had to share with you all. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. Thank you all that are online. Thank you for the friends that helped me make this presentation better. And I think questions.
So maybe I start from the question. I ask from the question from the YouTube, from the online people. So Adam is asking, I wonder if new junior developers might have the opposite problem because they will be hypersensitive to everything. Example, there are too many stimuli.
Right. Yeah. I'd say that for learning, yes, I'd say that, thank you for the question, Adam. So I'd say that for learning, indeed, it's kind of necessary to ignore some things especially in the beginning. The example of programming is a pretty good one, because yes, there's so many things that are going on, and choosing what to focus. Yes, this is true for any of the other skills, right? The playing guitar example, like when you're starting out, you can even parse everything that's going on. If you're like playing a chord, when you're a beginner, you don't even know what are the notes that are make it off, but you need to go to this step, right? And it's the same with programming. Like you need to sometimes just to plow through, and then later come back and analyze, and trigger that analytical thinking. Yeah, so I agree. I think that's very good observation. I think in the beginning it's that's why it's impossible to prevent it, right? Because discounting happens and it's kind of normal, and we want to avoid it, but at the same time we have to work with it. So yes, good question.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you for the two talks, Chuck and Elias. They were very interesting. Everyone, the speakers are going to stay for a little while. We're finishing a bit early, but that's fine because I saw that pizza just arrived, so we will eat hot. That's great. And feel free to hang out with us and stay, and we can have a chat. Let us know again, like if there are some talks you would like to give, like even if you are like a new speaker or you've never spoken before, it's completely fine. Yes, we're very happy to have you here. And thank you. And yes, see you in a few seconds by the pizzas. Thank you for everyone online too.
No pizzas for them.